Have you ever gone on vacation and you wanted to shoot pictures, and you wanted those pictures to be really nice, and you wanted those pictures so you could remember your vacation, right? I mean, like when I was growing up, we would take pictures, and those pictures would end up in a photo album, and I should have brought one of the photo albums with me because some people have no idea what a photo album is, okay? And that's kind of something you would now see in sort of like a museum, okay? Pictures, they're printed. I know you think that they're all in here now, but they're not. They used to actually print them, and you put them in an album because the only way to remember that trip wasn't to go look at your phone or your social media. It was to look at the picture and to see what was going on. In fact, I have a picture of me throwing snowballs in the Rocky Mountains in July with my aunt and uncle. So fun. Great vacation, great trip. It was incredible. Still remember it. It was a long time ago. And when you think about those things, and some of those things are like when you're taking pictures, you're taking those pictures for you to remember. Except maybe now. Maybe now we take pictures so people see what we're doing. So that we can kind of, I don't know, maybe it's not true. Maybe I'm just making this up. Maybe people don't take pictures just so they can kind of post it on social media so that people can see what you're doing and be jealous of what you're doing. Or take a picture so that you can post it on social media so that you get more hits and, this whole viral thing, and then people are making money off it, right? So there's a reason why people are taking pictures, and sometimes those reasons are really good. Sometimes those reasons might be, hey, if you're making some serious money, whatever, maybe we're not talking about that today. We're not talking about taking pictures, we're not talking about this, but we are talking about motive. We're talking about why are we doing some of the things we're doing, and today we're going to talk about why do we give? And more importantly, more specifically, is why do we give to help the poor? So we can look at that and remember, Jesus is telling the people gathered on the hillside in the Sermon on the Mount, he's trying to help them understand that they see a lot of ways things are done in their current time, but it's probably not ideal, and there's a better way. And so Jesus says in Matthew 6:1, watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. When you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. Now when we look at this passage, and this kind of turns a corner from Matthew 5 to Matthew 6, and so as we go through these next couple weeks and today as well, Jesus is saying, watch out, don't do the righteous things you're going to do, don't do them to be seen. And he names and really teaches about three things. There's this one, giving to the poor, helping those in need, praying, and fasting. And the other two are sort of kind of private things anyway. You would think, what in the world, how would it be? This one, not so much, and people would want to see it. And he introduces it with the thought, and the question really is, who are you doing it for? Who are you giving for? And Jesus introduces the section with those words, watch out. So that's sort of a warning, right? I mean, it's like, be careful. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others. The challenge today, as it was in the first century, is don't do your good so other people see it. Are people going to see it? Probably. But don't do it so that other people see it. This is just cheap, okay? This is a cheap shot. Just understand this is a cheap shot. And it's across the board. It's just everybody, okay? Like, not in the room. But I look with suspicion all the time with politicians. It's a cheap shot. I told you it was. Because here's the deal, right? Every time I see one that's in public doing something good, the first thought that goes through my head, I don't care which party they belong to, I don't care. The first thought that goes through my head is, yeah, well, way to go for their photo op. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I'm just like it seems as if the reason they're doing what they're doing is to be seen by their constituents, the news media, whoever it is, so that they look good for re-election and all those things. It's a cheap shot. I confess right up front, but it's an easy illustration because when you see it, you say, "Are they really doing this?" Like when they're at the homeless shelter volunteer, are they really doing it because they want to serve the poor? I shouldn't have that thought, but I do. I have that thought. It's a quick thought. Like, it's an easy one. Like, it is like, okay, like this is, yeah, like it's, I probably shouldn't think that, but I do. But Jesus had a similar thought. But he was talking to everybody on the hillside that day. He wasn't taking a cheap shot at the politicians. He was taking a shot at everybody, saying, you better be careful. Because when you give, don't do it to be seen by people. It isn't just a sickness for politicians. It's an issue for all of us. Because our hearts can be led astray. We can easily get caught up in doing something good for the wrong reason and wanting to be recognized for it. And then we start to do it out of that motivation. And that's what Jesus introduces here. He says, be careful. Don't do your good works to be seen by people. Not only in this one, but as we get the next couple in prayer and all those things, the challenge that Jesus lays out here is that motives matter. Look, it's not that we're not to give to the needy. In fact, we are to give to the needy. It is an expectation of the first century. It's an expectation of the follower of Jesus today. We ought to be caring for the poor. We ought to be caring for those who are less fortunate. There's all kinds of things. When we look at in the New Testament, you see Jesus' love and the first century's love for those who had less, and they tried to do what they could to help them. And I know we've got all kinds of this balance and struggle of, are these people just taking advantage or all those things? All I know is that there is a heart of God for the poor that is transferred to his people if we're going to carry out works of righteousness. And we're responsible to do something. Proverbs 14:31 says this, those who oppress the poor insult their maker, but helping the poor honors him. Okay, so when we look at this, if we oppress the poor, we are insulting their maker, who is God. And God's their maker, as well as our maker. But helping the poor honors God. Proverbs 19:17. If you help the poor, you are lending to the Lord, and he will repay you. Now, I'm not suggesting that you ought to give expecting to be given everything back right? But there's something about this that there is some things here that God is trying to communicate to us. That if we will lend and help the poor, we are lending to the Lord, who actually is a pretty good record of paying things off. Right? He's got a pretty good record of coming through and paying debts. In fact, he's paid a couple for you and I that like we couldn't take care of on our own. And so he does that. And so when you think about it, he's doing something for those who are caring for people he cares about. He cares for the poor. Followers of Jesus ought to care for the poor. But the challenge that Jesus is laying out here right from the start is doing the right thing with the wrong motives removes future reward. See, God rewards secret giving. God's reward is for those who are, and it doesn't have to be completely done secret, but God's reward is for those who do things with the right motive. And so Matthew 6:4 says, give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. The thought here from Jesus is to give your gifts in private so people don't know who gave. And so the question is why? Will God only reward those who give in private? Well, yes and no. I mean, because here's what happens, right? At some level, someone's going to know. Let me give you an example. If I were to, decide to give money away to somebody and help them, there's at least one other person who ought to know. I'm thinking I probably should, talk that over with Angela. Just a thought. I mean, there's times that we've done some stuff, not like crazy, but we've done some stuff that, we don't say anything to someone about, like each other. We'll tell each other later because we're like, I just felt like God wanted me to do this, and, she's done that with people, and I've done that with people, like we just happen to have money in our wallet, and we're like, hey, there's something going on, and we just thought, hey, we would do this. And that's not a big deal. It's not a big number. But if we're going to go to a big number, we probably talk about it. Like, if I were to say, like, give away a car, I might want to talk to her first. Right? It probably is a wise move. And you do that, and you go, okay, that's a good thing. And there's two thoughts that probably should challenge us here about this whole thing, about giving and giving in private. If you give and help the poor and no one knows about it, does that necessarily mean you've done it right? The answer is not necessarily. The question comes down to what we just talked about, is what is your reason for giving? Was it just to receive a reward? Like, if my only reason for giving is because I want to get a reward, that seems wrong. See, the real reason I should be giving is because I want to help somebody who is in need, not because of what I'm going to receive out of it. Right? Because now the motivation is I'm giving because I want to receive, not because I want to alleviate pain or minister hope and just kindness and all those things and love people. And okay, remember who the example is in all of this. Jesus didn't give his life for what he was going to get. He gave his life so that we would get something. He gave his life so that we would have forgiveness, that we would have restoration, that we would have an opportunity to experience heaven. He gave his life with no strings attached because people don't have to respond to it. That's sort of the idea behind giving to the poor, is giving without strings attached, without expecting anything in return, without expecting anything as a result. And that includes a reward from God, even though he promises he's going to do that. But if we give with the motivation we're going to get something from God, that's the wrong motivation, even if no one knows about it. See, the only person that knows is me. That's why Jesus said, be careful. Watch out. Don't do your good deeds to be seen by people, because our tendencies as human beings is wanting to be seen, wanting people to know about it. The other side of that question is, if you give and people find out about it, does that mean you lose your reward? No. There are some who would say, but based on verse 4 of Matthew 6, that hey, like if you don't give your gift in private, you're not going to get a reward. Well, that's not really true. Again, God is way more interested in the motivation of the heart than he is about the actual act that's happening, right? The motivation behind it. Why are we doing it? He's more concerned. He's dealing with the heart throughout this Sermon on the Mount. He's looking at the insides of people and go, you've got to be careful of this, because this is going to rise up inside of you. You've got to be careful of this, because if you allow this to happen, you're going to do the right thing for the wrong reason, and you're going to lose out on it. Think about it. How hard is it to never talk about something good you've done? It's hard. You want to tell the story because it's a cool story. You want to, and the other part about telling a cool story about something cool you've done, and it's not to like celebrate me. It's not about that. Sometimes it's to encourage other people that this is something that is possible for you to do in your life. And part of that is an encouragement. Part of that is, man, I'm doing this because I want to do it. Here's a cool story. Funny part is I can't tell you who did it. Okay, Ansel and I, when we were living in Illinois, a couple came to us. We were youth pastors, and we just bought our first house, and we bought a house that needed some carpet, but we didn't have the money buying a new house. We had 2 kids. We didn't have the money to put new carpet in the house when we bought it. So we just lived with it. It wasn't the color we would have chosen. It was just there, and it was, it was okay, and it was good enough that we're like, we're not doing this. One day, a couple in the church approached us and said, hey, we want to carpet your house for you. So go pick out the carpet you want. We'll pay for it. And the deal is you just can't tell anyone who did it for you. Like, we can live with that. You're going to put carpet in our house? We'll live with that. So we've never told anyone ever who did it for us. Now, they just approached us. They wanted to do it. They wanted to make an investment in our lives, because we were making an investment in the kids, the youth of the church there. And so now we weren't exactly poor, but they were just being kind. But their deal was, you don't tell anybody. So we never did. I mean, we told people somebody put the carpet in our house, but we never told them who. And here we are telling that story nearly 30 years later, because it makes an impact. There are still times that I remember back in the early days of Ansel and I's married lives together, when one day we came home. We were young. I was still in college. We were both working. We'd gotten married. Like, things are pretty tight. And we came home one time, and at that point, yes, you probably could have called us poor. There were bags of groceries on our front step. That matters. There was no note attached. Today, you'd be like, can I trust those? In the previous century, you could, okay? You could trust that somebody put groceries on your front porch and it was safe. Today, you'd have to take it to the lab and get it tested, okay? Would Would the person who left the groceries lose a reward for doing it? If we knew no, they wouldn't lose a reward. The only way they're going to lose a reward for doing it is if they did it to be known. And they did it with a heart that they wanted something out of it. Remember, when Jesus is telling this, much of that culture was about doing things so people knew about it. It's much like today. And it's been going on in our country for a long time and around the world forever, okay? So it's not like this is a new deal. But I want you to think about it. I happen to be a Washburn grad. And so if you walk around Washburn University, there's some buildings with names on them. I'm not going to pick on any new ones. But there is one building there that originally was a library. It's called Carnegie Hall. It's still there. It lived through a tornado. It's there. It's no longer a library. The reason it's called Carnegie Hall is because a guy named Andrew Carnegie. I mean, Washburn's not special. It's one of 108 Carnegie libraries on universities in the United States. It's one of 1,689 libraries total in the United States that are Carnegie libraries. Let me ask you a question. I don't know the answer to this. He's long gone. He did write a book of some sort that's called The Gospel of Wealth. Jesus' Gospel of Wealth is better, by the way, just in case you're wondering. But why did Andrew Carnegie build 1,689 libraries in the United States and about 2,500 around the world? Did he like learning and all that stuff so much that he wanted to put libraries everywhere? I mean, that's what it says. I mean, if you look at the Carnegie Foundation, all that stuff, that's what they say. But is that true? We'll never know. But notice his name's on the building. So he not only wanted to, he might have really wanted to do libraries, but he also wanted his name to live on, okay? Because otherwise he'd have named it the Smith Library. And no one would have known who Smith was, because there's 90 million of them. Right, so it's not nothing against Andrew Carnegie. I'm just saying, like when we do something like this, think about it. This is what Jesus was talking about. He was saying, be careful, because your tendency as a person is going to be to do good, to be seen by others. And when you do good to be seen by others, you've gotten all the reward you're ever going to get. And it's a challenge that all of us face. Whether it's the size of the giving of Carnegie and his libraries, or it's a gift to help an individual, we have to battle against our tendency to be wanting to be seen. The point here is really to help the poor because it's the right thing to do, not so that we're going to get our name on a building. And then we have these other couple verses in here that are really interesting, right? We jumped over them. But verses 2 and 3, it says, when you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. These don't talk to each other. Now, what is Jesus saying? Because the last I checked, my right hand better know what my left hand is doing, and my left hand better know what my right hand is doing. Otherwise, I'm probably going to punch myself in the face at some point. And we already realize that I have some issues because I'm injured. So maybe this is what I've done, right? Maybe my left foot didn't know my right foot was doing it, and my left foot hurt my right foot. I don't know, right? I mean, like this is just kind of a weird deal. So Jesus says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. And I think he's overstating something clearly that like is the warning here is he's saying, one, don't blow trumpets in the streets. Were people blowing trumpets in the streets when they gave? Probably not. Now, there's some thoughts that the offering receptacles in the temple had a look of a trumpet to them, and there's some sound there, and some of those, they would clank some things in there. That may be a stretch. But when you look at it, people aren't blowing trumpets, but they were used to people blowing trumpets to make announcements. And so Jesus is overstating it. But he's saying, don't do that. But on top of that, don't let your left hand and right hand know what's going on. And what he's saying is, don't give with strategy. Give without strategy. Don't think this through. Like, if I give this, and I'm seen doing this, and I do this, well, then I'm going to get access to this, and there's going to be people who are going to, they're going to like me more because I've done this, and I've got this all figured out. And all Jesus is trying to say is, don't give thinking through it all. Give because it matters. Give because it's important. Give because it is the right thing to do. Now, it isn't just hand out money randomly. It's not just like, throw it ever. There's no purpose to that, right? It's not just like, let's just drive down the road and chuck $100 bills. Like that. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying that either. But he's saying to give money to people who need it without a plan for how it's going to benefit you personally. And there was an expectation in the first century to help those in need for the Jewish people. That was not true of the Romans. Romans very much in the Andrew Carnegie world, let's build a building so that people know. Remember, it's called Herod's Temple, okay? Because he wanted people to know he helped build, right? There's not a question. Do good for people, not to be seen. Giving to the poor should be done to help the poor, period. Because they bear the image of God. Helping the poor shouldn't be about what we and I receive out or how we look, or help me to gain access to certain opportunities or people. It definitely shouldn't be so I get my name on a building or a fleeting moment of recognition. Helping and giving to the poor should be about wanting to honor God with our lives and doing righteousness in the world in which we live. It comes down to the heart of the person doing the giving. We help people out of a pure heart. Remember, Jesus is constantly driving this pure heart thing. If you look at all the pieces that we've talked about so far in the Sermon on the Mount, it all comes down to the heart. It all comes down to what's going on inside. And that's the most important piece here. It's not even about the amount of the gift. It's about the heart of the giver. Jesus celebrated the widow who gave very little. It was a small amount, but she gave all that she had. It's the heart of the person who does the giving that matters. And so the challenge for all of us is that we're faced with opportunities to give. And we do things that are going to be known, right? We don't make big deals of it, but we're going to do things like in November, we'll do One Day to Feed the World. We're going to ask people to give and to give to help the poor around the world. But on top of that, we want to give to help people in our own communities. And so when we think about that, we want to be a part of helping people. We just want to have the right heart to do it. Let's pray. Lord, thank you God, for all that you've done for us. Lord, thank you for your grace and mercy. Lord, as we celebrated communion this morning, and we just looked back to what you did for us on the cross and what took place around the table, Lord, I pray that you would help every single one of us keep in mind your incredible love for us, your heart to give, to surrender, to lay down your life, that we might be forgiven. And Lord, I pray that as we look at the good things we're to do, like giving to the poor, and as we talk about prayer and fasting in the next few weeks, Lord, I pray that we would recognize that the things that we do are to be done with the right heart, the right motivations. They're to be done in secret. They're to be done so that we can just do them with pure motive. And Lord, I pray that you'd help us to do righteous things, to do right by people, to do right for people, and for the poor people, Lord, that we would give with the right hearts, the right attitudes, Lord, that we would care about the poor in our community and the poor around the world. And that, God, we would give out of what you've so abundantly blessed us with. And I pray, Lord, that you will help all of us with the motives of our hearts, that we would live rightly. Lord, thank you. God, I pray that you would be honored and glorified in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.